welcome. Today I would like to talk about scheduling in TPL data flow. So let's get started. I have set up an example for us to kind of demonstrate and see how this works. So the class is schedule example and I have a method called start. So we can go there and take a quick look. Uh, this is the entry point method. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to propagate completion. So I've set up a variable for that. And as you can see, I use it to link to two consumer blocks, consumer block and consumer two blocks. These are just two actions. And I've created a producer block, which is set some message of the type counter, and this message is broadcasted to the two consumer block and consumer two blocks, and propagate completion is set for true. If we want to take a quick look at the class counter, it's basically a class which has a field, public field called count, and we are basically sending a message of this type count. So let me show you what the consumer block looks like. If you want to take a consumer block and see how it is constructed, we can take a quick look. It is essentially an action block. It takes a message of type counter, and here we get that counter, and what we're going to do is stay in a loop for 100 iterations and randomly sleep between 1 to 2 seconds and increment the counter input dot count by 1. So if this consumer class, each of this consumer class is going to get one message each. So we expect our counter after all this is executed to be 200 because we are incrementing one time. And to set this up, I've created this object of type counter, and I'm going to send it to my producer block, which will broadcast it to the two consumer blocks. So I'm waiting here for producer block and saying it's completed. When the producer block completes, it prints the message producer is done. When the consumer block is completed, it presents message consumer 1 done, consumer 2, and I'm now waiting for all these continuations to end, and at the end I'm going to print the value of counter to see what it is. So that's pretty much what this does. So if we run this thing as is, let me see what the results are and whether we get a 200 or not. So as you can see, because these are two blocks trying to increment the same variable, the actual result is only 198. It's not 200. So you can see the pitfalls of using TPL data flow. If you pass any objects of type reference like classes, basically all of these methods have access to the same, and you're trying to increment this. So if you wanted, in our case, since we wanted only one of these methods to increment this variable at a time, there is an option that is provided by TPL data flow, and which is not related to using locks and stuff, but essentially using what is called a concurrent exclusive scheduler pair. So let me try to find what it is. Concurrent. Okay, so this is called concurrent exclusive scheduler pair, and I'm going to create a variable of type or a field of type scheduler, and let me just have let me create this field, generate field. So we have a field called scheduler, and it's set to concurrent exclusive scheduler pair. And what we want to do with this is when we have our consumer action block, we want to specify some scheduling options because we only want them to run exclusively. Only one at a time is executing that action. So to do that, what we can do is we can set up execution data flow block options, and we want to get a variable called property called task scheduler, and we can set it to scheduler dot exclusive scheduler. because we want to run these actions one at a time because they are incrementing this. So if I make this change and run this method again, you would see that the result should be 200 as expected because we are incrementing the variable essentially 200 times. So this is perfect. Actually, you can see in consumer 1 it was 100 and then consumer 2 is 200 and the result is 200. So this is using a concurrent scheduler exclusive pair is the best option you have if you know certain blocks can only be executed exclusively. So thank you for watching this short screencast. I will add this under on my website under TPL data flow concurrent exclusive schedule pair. Thank you and you have a great day.